Hey guys, talk about ATPC. Just for the YouTube peeps. Haven't made a YouTube video in a bit. I've been doing Sunday reviews and some daily recaps for my Patreon, which also gives you access to the Discord. Um, Information in the description if you want to know more about that. I feel like I should do one or two for YouTube per week. This is Market Open Long and ATPC. We'll go over this. I tried twice. Very interesting games on this. So first of all, reverse split runners have been pushing. Important to know what types of stocks are pushing. Second of all, really interesting structure. Kind of a crazy low volume pop here. And then starts trading a lot more volume way lower in the range. So, I was saying to my Discord today. I was like, I'll keep an eye on it. Like going in the market open, I was like, I'll keep an eye on this name just to see what it does, right? It's a weird structure. It's in its first structure. So first structure, which means like first real pullback and consolidation from highs. Now I'm not really looking at this high just because of how hyper loose and hyper thin this push was. But there are some lower highs that traded more volume that are worth looking at. So some levels to consider. And all the other names, I didn't see anything really A plus. I did call out, sadly, I called out the what was that ticker? BFRG, that penny runner, BNRG. Called out the long trap, the short trap. So I said long trap and a short trap, where you get a big hyper aggressive push that makes a new lower high and then knifes down. I was like, this, because I had so much volume, I was like, this could just what I call my Discord long trap and a short trap. Called it out, got the knife, didn't have the read, and it rotated and went up like 80% from entries. So massive miss there. But I didn't hit ATPC. This is actually the only trade I took. I missed this actually A plus long trap short off the VWAP bid prop. I was on a phone call with Mikey Underdog while this was happening, and we were just talking about stuff. And actually, I thought this short, a decent short, was this move, and I didn't think it was going to do like some hyper aggressive like initiation like this. But anyways, I totally missed this short, so I could have caught both sides, but it's okay. So we'll talk about the market open long. I got stopped out on the first one and went back in on the second one. So, um, again, maybe just look at the chart really fast. Here's the pre-market structure. A lot more volume coming in near the lows, right? Super thin pop. I was like, I'll just keep an eye on it. Market open. So market open longs. What do we want to look at? First of all, it's trading near the bottom of its range. It's not up too much. It's in its first structure. These are all bullish things. And then you want bullish market open volume. And usually I would say somewhere around, I would say 300K is probably the minimum for better reads. And even better is more like 500K. But I think around that's pretty good. So it starts trading. And weak open. Weak opens tend to be actually nice for market open longs. You don't want green candles, green candles, green candles. You don't want like a curl into green candles, right? You often want weakness, and and then it started trading some decent volume. You see there's 400K here, and the reason I went in on this green candle is because they did something very interesting, which you could have saw on the level 2, but the book makes it even more clear. So it did this knife in the open, starts trading like 350K volume, and then down here they put 100,000 shares on the bid, and I'm like, that's extremely interesting. I was like, 100,000 shares on this weak open at the bottom of the range. I was like, let's keep in mind the market open volume, reverse split pumps, all this stuff, and it kind of had an instant reaction. I recommend not chasing. You actually see how spready it is. There's like a massive, massive spread. I'm not market ordering into some 10-cent spread on like that type of thing. Even though Bookmap might not be completely correct here. I don't like there might have been. I think there were some moments where it was spready early on. But what I liked was this entire bid got soaked, bounced off another bid, and started getting rotated on. And this is where I went long at. And I saw like these micro bid follow ups. And I liked the week open. I'm like, I'm just going to go in right away. And I started like adding, and it started moving. I was like, oh man, this is maybe some huge brain long. And then what happened was it started knifing and I got shaken out and I didn't take any profits up here. And I'm like, oh man, I thought that was, a solid thesis. But then again, this really reminded me, I longed VRAX, right? So, but VRAX day one, um, where, hold a second, I'll show you, whatever day this was, this day. So I remember, this is driving me insane. I remember longing on the bottom of this, this was also that crazy day last Monday. Um, on the bottom off the 1 minute 200 off this wick. And I remember this pushing and getting stopped out on this rollover. And I'm like, man, I thought that was actually pretty decent given the market conditions of that day. And then what happened was, if we kind of look here, they kind of they painted this 5.5 level, which is bullish, potentially bullish when you have super tightly controlled. It's also fake half dollar resistance. We're going to talk about fake whole dollar and half dollar resistance in this video on ATPC. But anyway, they swiped the lows, they rotated and did the real, this is the squeeze up to $9, right? It's like an 80% squeeze, and I'm like, man, like it'd be cool. Like I got shaken out because what they're doing is they're hyper controlling the sell off with a lot of bullish kind of chart paint where it's like you're just making new lows, painting resistance, new lower highs, new lower highs, new lower highs, swipe the bottom, and then you rotate, right? So when I got stopped out of this, I remember missing that, right? A lot of your reads come from missing trades and figuring out why you missed them, right? It's like, what was the liquidity thesis of what made VRAX interesting, and how can it get repeated later on? So anyways, you can actually see it here. Just hyper sell-off. They swipe the lows, and then they start soaking. And you also have to remember that 220 guy bought, he got filled. He got filled 100,000 shares at the bottom of the range. I'm like, that guy got filled 100,000. So that becomes a key level for if there's price action later, right? So anyways, here's the walk down. Also, a thing that gave me some confidence was the bids on the book. You can actually see bid absorption at the lows followed by more bids under it. Kind of lends itself to that idea that this is getting walked down. They're going to swipe the lows. They're putting bids to catch it. And then a couple nice things here. This little push here, right, is nice fake VWAP resistance. Touches VWAP, nice back down to the lows, right? Fake VWAP resistance, also bullish. Like to see it. And then here is where I started adding. And then this little walk down, it hits VWAP again and starts getting walked down. And then I was like, oh, not only do we have these lower highs at 220, but we have this guy at 220. So now it can, a lot of times stocks will pivot off of these controlled lower highs or off of levels where there might have been a big buyer or a big seller, right? So it's always important to remember those levels where, there is a lot of aggressive price action, a lot of buying and a lot of selling, right? Can kind of give you an idea of, in terms of market manipulation, of what a rigger's intending on doing, right? At those levels, you just pay attention to those levels. So it bounced directly off those levels, and when it started rotating, I added even more. And then it's just started ramping, and once it started ramping with, like, you can see the volume on the chart, right? Once it broke VWAP and this started ramping, and I started getting it started going from like a couple 100K under VWAP up to 600K and 1.2 million. I'm like, it is on, dude. I'm like, this rig is on, and that 100K bidder guy is shoving this thing straight up. That's what. Hey, then what do you? I mean. And then in terms of profit taking, what do? You just look at, like, my profit taking, a little phrase I have for profit taking is you want to be extremely smart on your entries, and then extremely extremely simple and almost dumb on your exits. Like you really do want your in terms of profits, like, just simplify it. If the thesis is working, what I'm just looking at, because people ask me, it's like, what are you holding? I'm looking at liquidity targets. I'm like, this is a liquidity target. These lower highs are liquidity targets, right? Some painted lower highs. Sell into some of the painted lower highs. And they have a big clear out candle. Again, kind of expected, given where the lower highs are. There's going to be people shorting there. There's going to be people taking profits there. But what really matters, especially once, understanding where we are in the structure and understanding the increasing volume, it's like what really matters is not the fact that it knifed, but what's the reaction, right? Because this still has plenty of room to rotate higher, right? Especially with the increasing volume. So, yeah, I mean, just look at this big fat knife. Market makers love to attack these knives that are way too early in the structure. This happened on ASST, which I also longed and also made a bunch of money. Like one of my better ASST day one long and this long were some of my best longs this week. And yeah, they just do a little undercut. They pop it, they throw up a bid, and they start ripping this thing. They catches a single bid, catches a bid, just starts ripping. And then this was a miss by me in terms of not adding more. Could have added even more here. But they started painting $3. So we got $3 paint, $3 paint. I actually sold into this push just in case, it's hard to know with this type of structure. The only thing I thought was weird, it's kind of hard to know really outside of the lower highs from the pre-market. It's kind of hard to know where they're going to target because the very little volume actually traded up in this. Like, if you look at the book, like very little shares actually got traded up on this, like in like above, like especially above like 3.75. Like, it's hard to think that that's a major liquidity target. But the lower highs where more volume got traded makes more sense. This is just some hyper loose reverse split, pre-market pump. And then, yeah, look at this right here. So we got $3 rejection, lower high at $3. And then big short candle. Shorts love these little painted, liquidity levels that, this is this is just this is similar to the high day clear out short trap. Instead, it's just at a painted $3 level. It's at a whole dollar level. So shorts can't help themselves. They get knifed. Let's look at the book. Look at the bids. You could see it. This is why, like, if you don't have the book, I don't even understand how you're trading some of these names, right? You're just trading like obvious retail short patterns and you're hoping it works. I guess, if you're skilled enough, I guess it works. But for the book will give you a lot better ideas of what the manipulator's planning on doing, right? And look at this, like, here's the $3 clear out. Here's the fat knife back into the 270s, right? Right into 18 layers of bids with bid follow-up. I was just kind of concerned. I'm like, are they really going to repeat? They kind of did that here and then did that here. I was like, are they repeating the same thing back there? I'm always skeptical when market makers kind of repeat the same type of, fat knife in the bid. That has follow through. Fat knife in the bid. It's just going to have follow through. But I was bullish to $3 paint. So I was like, I'll hold it for the $3 shorts because I'm thinking, like, where are the shorts at? This helps with profit taking too, right? It's like, where are the shorts at, man? Like, on this, if we're talking about this liquidity level up here, it's like, where are the shorts at? They're in the 2.9s and 2.8s, and they're risking, they're expecting $3 resistance to hold. Let's get those guys shaken out, and then and then sell some into strength, right? So you kind of want, especially after this wick, you definitely want to get rotated on. But at the same time, you have to understand how aggressively far up in the range we're getting. That we're at 2.1s, and this is up to 3.5, and this is really, really aggressive, like hyper aggressive, like 1 minute 9, 1 minute 20 higher lows up only. So after the $3 shorts get squeezed, it's one of those things where I always say the less shorts in a stock, the weaker a stock is, right? In other words, once all the shorts have gotten stopped out, who's left to buy to keep, their covers are pushing the stock up, but once their covers have been executed, who's going to buy? Longs chasing, new longs chasing a stock that just rotated 80% up only, you know what I mean? It gets, the more shorts get squeezed, the more bearish a stock gets, right? So anyway, a nice back down to VWAP. Just how there's fake VWAP resistance early in the move, at the bottom of the move, where there's potential to rotate, there's also fake VWAP support on stocks that already pushed. That being said, I saw this, and I even called out my Discord. I was like, hey, they could just knife this through VWAP from all these people chasing. Ends up bid propping, By the way, I did a video yesterday on I traded Lucy. I traded Lucy. If you're wondering, I did a daily review that's posted on my Patreon. I traded Lucy long at the top, bookmap long. A long that is literally only possible with bookmap, by the way, just so you know. Longed here on this candle because the book was insane. And then I actually shorted near market open, covered on the fake whole dollar resistance, which is a bullish factor. It rejected 6 and started getting rotated on. And then I shorted the bid prop, a very clear fucking bid prop, swiping the lower highs. Now, there was some risk of this skipping through 7 and squeezing. There's always some risk. Understand the bullish thesis, but had a 660s average, and it faded. I did cover too much, though, I will say that. Anyways, too much too soon. What do we talk about? ATPC? Anyway, higher lows, fake VWAP support on a stock that already did an aggressive liquidity move past pretty much every single pre-market lower high. Really hard to know how high they're going to take this. The pre-market structure is kind of crazy. And yeah, we'll look at this really fast, right? We'll look at this move, 1037, 1038, and by the way, look how here's that 340 sell. This type of stuff starts happening on stocks that are getting too extended, where and you'll see this on market open longs on stocks that are up too much. Like the market open long is good for plays that are relatively bottomed out and most importantly haven't already made massive after hours and pre-market moves, right? If the stock's already ran 100%, super aggressively into pre-market and then starts pulling back in the open, in 150% and, big percentages like this, even if it gets walked down in the open, it's usually not a good market open long. And what tends to happen on extended stocks is you get bid support, you get bids holding, but on the pushes, there's no bids, right? And you get a lot of bearish stuff like this where asks are getting filled, people are chasing, there's no bid follow-up, the ask gets filled, market maker knifes it down. You get a lot of ask getting filled with no bid follow-up in the right context is very bearish. Anyways, here's the VWAP, same thing, man. Look at this. There's no bids on this thing, right? Touches this higher low trend line, VWAP bid prop, big initiation, fills this ask, starts running through these ask up here, starts to stall, literally zero, like zero, there's no bid. The reason this happens is because there's no bids. Sometimes you will see this, by the way. This is something to keep an eye out for. Sometimes you'll see a single bidder. It didn't really happen here, but sometimes you see single bidders push this up. Single bidder gets filled and it knifes. Just something to pay attention to. I don't like this. I would have been bearish even without this being here. But something to pay attention to. But then, yeah, I saw that in real time. I was talking with Mike. I was like, oh, that was the VWAP long trap. And then that ends up being, ends up going from, you could have got in 320 and, ends up fading all the way to 230. So could have caught 90 cents up and down, but I missed it. So anyways, that is it for today, guys. If you want to know more info, I will be posting more stuff to the Patreon, post some stuff to YouTube every once in a while, that type of thing. So anyways, that's it for today. Information down below. You guys have a good one.